5, available on the BBC iPlayer radio app. 5 Live Breakfast with Nikki Campbell and Rachel Burden.
7:41, good morning. It's Tuesday morning. 1 in 4 people has suicidal thoughts after leaving the armed forces, according to new research. Let's talk to a couple of veterans. Gemma Morgan was a captain in the army, serving in the Balkans. Hi, Gemma.
Good morning.
And Craig Mealing served 23 years in the army, including tours in Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq and Afghanistan. Hi, Craig.
Good morning.
Hello, both of you. Left the armed forces different times. Gemma, you were in 2002. Craig, you left back in 2013. But there are still many similarities with your experiences. Gemma, how well prepared were you for civilian life, do you think, when you left?
Yeah, good morning. I think I was very ill prepared, actually. I think when you join the army, you're drawn in by this promise of belonging to this very special group, and you become a part of this pretty powerful brotherhood, really, that set us apart from civilian counterparts. We used to term them as civvies, and feel very proud of that. And so suddenly leaving, I certainly felt very ostracised by the military, with a stigma around the mental health illness that I had. I felt quite betrayed, and not a part of that group anymore, somehow, full of shame that I didn't quite cut the muster anymore. But then coming back into a civilian world that I'd ostracised myself from for my period of service, it was a very isolating time, really.
Tell us, that sense of being ostracised by the military, were they aware that you were struggling with your mental health when you left?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I had symptoms of post-traumatic stress fairly quickly, actually, on return from a deployment. But the mental health certainly then was seen as almost like you had leprosy, if I'm honest. I think the military's built on your training teaches you to compartmentalise any kind of emotional response. It's very externally focused in terms of finding answers. So anything that looks inwards was seen as navel-gazing, or certainly any sense of vulnerability, or you were taught to hide any sense of vulnerability under this kind of myth of the macho, invincible warrior. So,
and did you feel that all the more acutely because you were, in many ways, a woman in a majority man's world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point. I think the men feel it as much so. I think the pressure on them to uphold this myth of quite outdated kind of macho archetype is very strong. But I think as a woman, certainly the shame associated with not quite cutting it in a very male world is a tough one, because many of those typically female characteristics, or archetypal female characteristics like emotion, sensitivity, empathy, were certainly characterised very much as weakness. So it was quite tough. Yeah.
Was that true of your experience as well, Craig, or is that beginning to change perceptions of being under pressure to kind of hold it all together like that? Is that beginning to change a little?
A little bit. I'm quite lucky where I work. It's a place I work, there's a lot of military people around, so they sort of understand what we've gone through, so they're a bit more understanding. But yeah, I joined the army at the age of 16, so Civilian Street was totally different to what I expected it to be. I was sort of so used to army life, being told where to be, what to do, and basically where to drink as well. And obviously that stopped when I left the army. And when you leave work in Civilian Street, everybody goes home and that's it. But when you're in the army, you still have that bond, which I do miss. And obviously that caused loneliness. Obviously I got in a few issues as well due to my mental illness of PTSD. And I lost everything. I lost my partner, I lost the house I was living in, and ended up being homeless for a while. So it wasn't particularly great.
And I think drink was an issue for both of you, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely.
I think certainly when you have to find a way to channel the emotion, and numbing it seems to be a a quick route to and self-destructive behaviour. And I think in the military, it's very much a man up, and drink is the drug of choice. Get down the bar, and it becomes a go-to, I think, for many veterans.
So what has really helped you through this then, Craig? I know that you mentioned that you have a job now and you have a bit more of a support network around you.
Yeah, basically, had a charity who had to help me with my PTSD. I went there for 6 weeks. Basically took up pottery to chill me out and keep me out of trouble. So now with Suffer, they help me fund get the wheel and a kiln at home. It's like Barbados in my flat every day.
Nice at this time of year. Who'd have thought? Would you have said to yourself, like when you were in the middle of those tours of, I don't know, Iraq, Afghanistan, that one day you'd be sitting there making pottery? No,
not in a million years. I never thought I'd do it. But yeah, I'm starting to improve. I started up my own website, and that's getting on and hopefully promoting sort of PTSD and a bit of awareness about it.
Yeah, and there is much more awareness now, isn't there? And Gemma, what about for you? I know that all this had a profound impact on your family.
Yes, I've got 3 children. My husband left his military career to look after me, so both of us had our careers cut short. And I wasn't able to look after my children when I was in the Priory. I was admitted to the Priory Hospital. So it had a profound effect for many years. And I ostracised myself from the military. I wanted nothing to do with the military for a good 20-odd years, really. But Help for Heroes picked me up by accident when I got involved with the Invictus Games. And really have started to embrace me unconditionally again. And I've started to feel a sense of belonging back with many other veterans who have different but similar stories. And it's a really critical part in my healing process, what Help for Heroes have done. Yeah.
Gemma and Craig, hi, good morning. It's Nicky here. I love the idea of the pottery. I was right in there with you, and with the kiln, whatever it is. It sounds great. Can I just ask you both? It's something we touched on earlier on. There's a completely different attitude in America and in other countries towards the military and towards the ex-military. I've been in airports over there and heard announcements. Anyone who's in the military, come up to the special lounge we've put aside for you. People come up in the street and shake your hand if they know you've been in the military. We don't have that here. What do you think of that, Craig?
I went to America sort of about 2 years ago, and I got that feeling as well that they're so supportive of their armed forces and they're doing anything for you. Even for us as going over there, I used to show my ID card that I was serving in the military, and they used to give me a discount as well. So even they support our military, but over here it's slightly different. Some do, some don't. I always ask. You've got to always push your luck, as they say. But yeah, it's not as great as it is in America.
Do you think there should be more of it here in appreciation, whether you agree or disagree with the conflicts that people are engaged in? Some of, the fact that they are, serving the country. Gemma, do you think we could do with more of that attitude here, that positive attitude?
Yes, I do. I think over here, when you leave the military, your ID card's taken off you. You no longer have access to any military messes, your home for so many years. So your access to people still serving is cut off largely. When I went to the Invictus Games in Orlando a couple of years ago, just walking around, people would stop you and say thank you for your service. And you feel very much still a part of the community. I think the other key thing is that when I left, the only help available to me, there was no longer any military help in terms of my medical health, my mental health. So I had to pay exorbitant amounts in the Priory Hospital. Most young soldiers can't afford that because they don't have any savings. And I was very reliant then on therapy alongside civilians, which is very difficult as well because military PTSD is quite different. So I do think that in the UK, we are utterly reliant on military charities to look after our veterans. And I think the balance needs to shift and the MOD need to take more of that responsibility and take a much larger interest.
Thank you both so much. Gemma Morgan, captain in the Army, serving in the Balkans, she was, and Craig Mealing, served 23 years in the Army, including tours of Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq and Afghanistan. It's 7:50. So...